On this episode, we visit High River, Alberta. We talk with Alberta Health Services about walking. We learn about our High River. We look at levee trails and city sidewalks. Alberta Health Services helps many towns work on walkability. Finally, we look at the impact of dogs in public space. Stay tuned.
We're in High River, Alberta, talking with Debbie Lane McLeod. Who do you work for?
Hi, I work for Alberta Health Services and the Calgary Rural Primary Care Network.
What do you do for them?
I work in community development, and so what that means is that we work with community to bring wellness to all. The healthcare system is really good at taking care of illness, but it's the community that takes care of wellness. So we help to promote wellness by addressing those things that determine health or the determinants of health.
And what would some of the key determinants be?
Oh, early childhood development, social support networks, education levels, access to healthcare services, personal healthcare practices, that type of thing. Bringing awareness to how important those are for individual wellness and for wellness of the community as a whole.
Where would making the community walkable fit into all that?
Walkability is incredibly important. What walkability brings to a community is a sense of connectedness. It brings personal health practices. It helps to encourage good personal health practices by using personal modes of transportation versus vehicle modes of transportation. And that has huge impacts on physical health, mental health, spiritual health. So it addresses all of those just by getting out and walking and saying hello to a neighbor or a person on the street or on our Happy Trail systems, or just by enjoying nature, by enjoying fresh air. So it really helps with many of the determinants.
And walkability, from the infrastructure side, that's not the Department of Health building sidewalks necessarily.
No, that is with the town and the engineering and planning department. However, health knows the impact of those things. We know that without sidewalks or good sidewalks, people don't walk. We know that if the sidewalks aren't maintained, cleared, people don't walk. Walking is the most affordable, most accessible way people can become physically active. So as a community, if we help to decrease barriers that get in the way of walking, then it just provides more opportunity for citizens to walk. Then that they become healthier. It decreases chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetes, obesity, mental health issues. And so that has direct impact on healthcare costs, which is a direct impact in a good way. It decreases them. So the healthcare system isn't taking care of things that are preventable.
And a lot of people, might recognize that you walk more, you get more exercise. That's going to help you lose weight with obesity and diabetes issues. Mental health, where does walking fit in with that?
Well, several ways. It helps to connect with nature. It helps, the physical aspect of it also helps with like being active physically helps with mental health. And it also, a lot of times walking or joining walking groups or having increased sociability helps to connect with other people. And connecting with others also helps with mental health as well. It helps people clear thoughts. It helps people to work out problems. It helps people to take out aggression on the sidewalk. It helps people to gain a new perspective on whatever they're thinking about. That fresh air, that sunshine, the cold, crisp High River winters, that all can help gain that perspective of wellness.
Now, once you've removed the barriers to walking and create opportunities for people to walk, what does it take to get people to actually take advantage of those opportunities?
What's needed is awareness. Awareness and public education on the importance of walking, the benefits of walking, and what's in the community, where to walk, and the opportunities for that. So it's a mixture of engaging citizens in knowing their community, in knowing what's here, and in being proud of what we have. We have 630 acres of park space. We have approximately 30 kilometers of paved happy trail systems. So it's helping people to know what's here and to use it, and to know where to go and what to do when they want to get active or they want to use things. Use what exists and then help promote it. Be a community ambassador.
We're talking with Jody Seeley with Our High River. What is Our High River?
Well, basically, it's like a citizen movement. So we're here to help engage citizens within our community in High River to get more involved, to get connected, to take their big ideas and make them into reality and create the community that they really want to live in.
Why is it important that citizens be involved that way and not just leave everything to city government?
Well, I think the more that citizens are involved, the more they take ownership of what their community looks like, the more they're taking charge, the more they're getting connected, the more they get to know their neighbors and their friends and keep that. It makes a safer community, it makes a stronger community, and I think the more that citizens take those initiatives into their own hands, the more successful they are. I think if we sit back and just wait for the town with a capital T to take over stuff, things aren't going to get done maybe how you want it to look like because it's your great idea or not in that same time frame, or there's a lot of limitations in that. So the more the citizens can just take over themselves, the more invested they are in their community, which makes it stronger and stronger.
How do you encourage citizens who have a good idea but they're happy sitting at home watching the hockey game on TV?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, I think, at the end of the day, is what we try to do is encourage them that if they have that great idea is to get a group with them. We don't want anybody trying to take on projects on their own because that's what seems daunting. We have a community vitality fund that we have created so people with great ideas can put that kind of into motion and paper and apply for funding to help them with it. And you do it as a team. So then the person who's maybe would rather sit on the couch realizes they've got 5, 6, 10 accountability partners with them to create that, idea to come to fruition instead of just waiting. And I think there's people in this world who will stay seated on the couch, and that's where they'll be. And you can't force people to be involved. But I think good things snowball effect into more great things, and people aren't going to want to stay home and not do anything because everybody else around them is doing something.
So where are we standing right now?
We are downtown High River on 4th Avenue, which I feel like it's kind of one of our jewel streets. We've done a lot of downtown revitalization, and this street has become kind of a unique one because it becomes this really cool community gathering spot. So we've got extra wide sidewalks where businesses are putting out product for sale where you can walk down. It kind of has that sidewalk sale feel. And we've created an opportunity that people can close down this street and to hold community events. So even just a couple weeks ago, we had what we called the Long Table Supper. So this entire street was blocked off and huge tables set all the way down so that the community came and had supper together. And it was this one big long table. We have farmers markets on this street every Thursday throughout the summer and fall season, and the street closes down and it becomes full of vendors, and it becomes this really cool community gathering spot. And we want to see more and more of that moving forward.
Are you able to do much here in the winter months?
Well, I think being Canadian, we always find things to do in the winter. I'm not sure what that looks like for outdoor events, but what's nice is we found with these larger sidewalks and with the feel that, the community is having, people are lingering a little bit longer while they're down here, and we'll be dressed in 400 layers. So I think those conversations will still happen along the street, whether it's snow covered or not.
We're talking with Peg Ainsley with Our High River. How long have you lived in High River?
I just moved here in April, so this spring, just a very few months, John.
What's been your impression over that time?
Well, I was first of all really taken with the downtown. The first time I drove down one of these streets, I just wanted to park so I could walk. And I just recently was with a friend from out of town. And we were walking along the next street over where they were shooting our local television program, Heartland, and someone on the crew had to stop us because we were heading for the restaurant and that was going to be in their shot. So it was great to just have that moment in the sunshine, and we met that crew gal, and chatted with her for a few minutes, and it's just all so conducive to hanging out and meeting new people. I really enjoy that piece, moving here as a newcomer.
And what did it take to put all that together? Who does Our High River have to work with to make this happen?
Well, we support a number of community collectives, actually. I work very closely with the Seniors Collective, and they as a group have done amazing things to bring extra mobility into the community. They've got a 3-tiered bicycle program so that everyone of every fitness level can be involved with bicycle outings. And we also work with something called the Social Sustainability Collective, so that all of the people working with people and people issues come together so that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. And in that way, the people of High River are really connected. And at Our High River, we support those kinds of collectives because we love to see that happen. And we also promote whatever activities, whatever programs that they have going, whatever they've gotten the latest funding for. We will spread the news through the town and help how and wherever we can.
And how do streets like this, how does that support the business community here?
Well, if I park down there at the angle parking and walk down to my bank, I pass a couple of little shops on the way. And I am a shopper, so I will pop in if I have the time to see what's new, or I'll say, oh, gee, I like that. That's a perfect gift for my niece. And so I think that the more we're on the street, the better it is for the entire town.
We're talking with Alexa Levere, who's engineering inspector for the City of High River.
Hi.
Where are we standing?
Right now, we're standing on one of the berms, actually, that was for flood protection after the 2013 floods that hit Calgary. We also got inundated. So we had constructed kilometers of berms and dikes around the town to protect us, but we had put pathways on top of them, and we call them happy trails. We have other happy trails throughout town, but putting happy trails on top of the dikes certainly increased the connectivity of the town.
Where'd the idea of having trails on the dikes come from?
Well, it was a combination of people being worried about their view of the river being obstructed by these dikes. Now, the town knew that flood protection was more important than the view, so that we would never be flooded again, but we wanted to make sure that the people of High River loved them for more than just their functionality, so we put on the pathways to make sure that people could enjoy the river still.
Do you find people out here on a nice day?
Oh, every day. And it doesn't even have to be a nice day. Especially around lunchtime, everyone that works in the downtown will come for a nice walk. It's so easily accessible, and they're nice and wide, so it doesn't matter if you have a stroller or a wheelchair or just out for a walk. It's loved by everyone.
Are there any special considerations when you're putting a path on a dike?
Oh, absolutely. This is not just a lump of dirt. This is a very structural, intensely designed structure. So when you put on a pathway, one of the things that we ran into issues with was signage, because you can't drill into the dike without compromising it. So there's very strategic places where fences could be put or certain signages. And the biggest thing was making sure that the functionality of the dike to protect the town wasn't compromised by putting a pathway on top.
And then the flood also affected your downtown. What did you do when you rebuilt your downtown?
Well, High River is known as a people-first community, so we've really been trying to increase the walkability of the downtown. So with the flood, we were forced to replace all of the underground infrastructure in the downtown, and because that was being dug up, it gave us a great opportunity to redo the surface as well. So we've put in 4-meter wide sidewalks and lower profile curbs so that it's easier for people to get onto the sidewalk from the road, and that's really allowed this open concept where people can park at one end of downtown and walk throughout the downtown and experience all of the shops and see all of the downtown rather than just parking right in front of their store, going in and leaving. It's really creating a nice community spot downtown.
Yeah, no one wishes a flood on anyone, but how long would all these changes have taken if you hadn't had that rebuilding opportunity?
Well, definitely decades, because we've seen it in a lot of other communities that really it's spurred by budget and need rather than desire. So if you needed to replace the sidewalks in the downtown, it would probably be only one street at a time, and it wouldn't be such a radical change. But by having to redo the entire downtown at one time, it enabled us to really think about how we wanted our downtown to look and function. So the flood really was a blessing in disguise to recreate our downtown.
What are sidewalks like in the rest of the city? How much do you know about them?
It really depends on the area and the age, but we've definitely started doing some sidewalk condition assessments of all of the sidewalks and pathways in town, and that prioritizes for us which ones are in the worst shape and need to be replaced right away. And we've also incorporated a portion called the missing links, and that's where a sidewalk should be but was never constructed. So we're trying to fill in those missing links to make sure that people aren't having to walk on the road or having to detour in order to stay on a sidewalk.
How do you put a report like that together? Do you have an intern walk the whole city? What do you do?
Actually, we hired a consultant to do it, and that's exactly what they did. Is they had employees with tablets walking the entire city, trying to track where they were, take a picture if there was a crack or a heaved sidewalk or something that needed addressing. They would take a picture of it. It has a GPS coordinate on that picture, and then they would give the overall street a rating. And that rating was based on drainage or whether there were cracks or whether there was spalling on the concrete. They also looked at wheelchair ramps and whether they were there, and if they were there, what condition were they in. So that gives us a great perspective of how much work the town has ahead of them to make sure that this is a walkable community.
What's your strategy then for accomplishing all that work and getting everything up to snuff?
Budget. It will take millions of dollars to redo every sidewalk in High River, and we know that. So we have an annual budget right now. It's about $150,000, and we get to allocate that to what's most needed right now. And we try and separate that into about 50% fixing existing sidewalks and 50% filling in those missing links, because we know that if we only fill in missing links, the repairs won't get done on the existing sidewalks, but if we only do repairs, we won't have the budget left to do the missing links, so we want to make sure that they're both a high priority in town.
And as your Happy Trail system expands, your sidewalks get improved, What does that do for the quality of life of people living in High River?
Oh, well, people are loving it because as they have more access to these happy trails, they're much more likely to ride a bike to work. Especially the happy trails, they're away from the streets and away from the traffic. So it's really peaceful. So I see a lot of people, instead of running in town, they'd love to run the dikes instead because it's calmer, it's beautiful with the river in the background, and the town makes sure that the pathways are cleared, especially in the winter. So it's a great place for people to just enjoy.
We're talking with Graham Matsala with Alberta Health Services. What do you do for him?
I work in chronic disease prevention, so I'm in health promotion. Within chronic disease, there's some modifiable risk factors that we can address. One of the major modifiable risk factors is physical inactivity. So in order to address people's physical activity levels, we're trying to promote healthier, more walkable communities. So I go around working with communities to try to facilitate change and make communities more walkable.
And you sort of invite yourself to these communities, or do they ask you to come in? How does that work?
Yeah. Alberta is a large province, and we have other health representatives that are more local and regional. Those health representatives contact me, or municipalities within the city, city administrators will contact me and ask me to come and visit. There's also, I work with other sectors as well, so a recreation sector might be working with the community to try to improve other forms of walkability and might contact me to see how I can help come in and contribute.
And you arrive in a community, where do you get started?
Well, usually before I even arrive, I'll have some meetings with the community to sort of discuss what their needs are and what they're working on. There's usually a few different things that communities are already doing really well that we want to build on that momentum and move things forward. In Alberta communities, I'm finding that there's a lot of downtown redevelopment that's happening, or trail development, and those types of things are things that we can sort of leverage into working on walkability in a more larger community type scale.
And when you're working on walkability, how much of that is the infrastructure, the path or the sidewalk, and how much is other stuff? Yeah,
that's a really good question. We work on both built environment and the social environment itself as well. So the built environment is a big part of it, and town administrators are usually trying to address some built environment to make changes in terms of curb ramps and those types of things, curb extensions, widening sidewalks and those types of things to make their communities more accessible to people, and it usually in a very positive type way. What we're also trying to address too is those social type and those choices that people make to walk every day, and sometimes those both environments tend to intersect. So if you use good wayfinding in terms of signage that addresses where people should go and places that they might want to visit, you can also affect people's social change and social type behaviors so that your community improves in a broader way.
And as you said, Alberta's a pretty big place. I imagine you see quite a variety between the different communities that you visit.
Yeah, for sure. I try to come into a community and help them make a plan for themselves. So it becomes a walkability plan by the community for the community. It's usually incorporated within plans and strategic plans or municipal development plans that are already in existence, and sort of celebrating what they're doing and how to improve it, and making it unique to them and addressing the issues that are most important to them so that they're more likely to not only buy into the change but be interested in making that change. So there's a lot of questions and answers when you're working with communities and making sure that the decisions are theirs to make, and I'm there to support and facilitate change.
What sort of follow-up is there? You don't just visit once and go away. How do you help them as they proceed over the years?
For sure. I'll help out after we sort of decide on some kind of actions that these communities would like to take. They can contact me to help them for next steps. They might have a lot of ideas already and just want to bounce ideas off of me to see if it's kind of along the lines and the way to make change. We also have a communities of practice group in which we try to bring communities together so they can share with each other in order to make change, because other communities already may have done something similar or might have some great answers to those questions. So I try to link those people together. We also follow up with them just to see what type of actions they've taken and what's worked and how we were able to help, so we get feedback from them to find out how our facilitation process is effective and how to improve it going forward.
We're talking with Melanie Rock with the University of Calgary. What do you do at the university?
My official role here today is Associate Scientific Director with the O'Brien Institute for Public Health at the University of Calgary.
Dog walking, what do we know about it?
Well, one of the things we do know is about a third of all households in Canada, the United States, the UK, even more in Australia, include a dog. And so that's a huge portion of the population that's impacted very directly by high levels of dog ownership in society. But all of us, when we enter into public parks or we're walking along the street, then dogs in public space can impact everybody, non-dog owners and dog owners as well.
What sort of impacts do you see?
Well, here in Calgary, actually Calgary is considered to be a model city when it comes to policies on pets for a variety of reasons. But one of them is a very deliberate approach to thinking about how to ensure that pets do not pose a threat or nuisance to others, even as they may promote health and overall well-being for the people who live most closely with them.
Would this be stray dogs, dogs that just aren't on a leash at the moment? What do you tend to see?
In Calgary, there are practically no stray dogs at all, actually, and that's partly to do with how the city of Calgary has responded, how citizens have responded, how organizations like Calgary Humane Society have responded. But as you mentioned, leashing. Well, historically, leashing actually goes back to rabies control. It was a rabies control policy measure introduced in Victorian England to identify that people had a dog, but they didn't necessarily have to muzzle their dog. As long as they accompanied their dog very directly, the dog was allowed out in public. And now we think about leashing as a way to really, again, ensure that the dogs are not posing a threat or nuisance to others, but they're also getting their exercise. When the person at the other end of the leash, and it usually is the owner, but it could be a neighbor, it could be the friend of a neighbor, it could be a child who is walking the dog on behalf of a neighbor, then that dog then becomes a companion in walking. And when we think about walking in cities like Calgary and all over the world, then we really need to think very proactively and thoughtfully about dogs in our midst. Without access to public space, dogs themselves cannot be healthy.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.